this is Patty the Leather Lady once again for another informative video on mold. Okay, this is going to give you what is mold, what types of mold, how to take care of your equipment in leather, about mold, what to look for, can you get it out? That's the big question. So let's get started. All right, so the reason why I'm doing this video is I went ahead and had these two saddles come in. Beautiful saddles, and it looked like there was just dust on them. He wanted them conditioned and cleaned, not a problem. And I'm like, oh, just a little bit of dust, but within seconds I could smell the mold. I could smell it so strong. And so it was probably this saddle here the most. Of course, this saddle has the most tooling, and it was white inside the tooling. It was sort of a whitish green. Okay, so there's different kinds of molds, but this saddle here, can we get the mold out? You're gonna have to find out at the end, and I will share that with you. Okay, so what we wanna do is, we live in the Pacific Northwest, or we live in a wet area. Maybe you're in Canada, Alaska, or you're in a cold area. The one thing that we suggest as leathersmiths, and even if you're working on leather and you're building a little shop, do not keep your workspace or your tack room cold. It's going to help grow mold, because what do? You turn the lights off. Oh, now there's dark, and then you have cold, and then if it's raining outside, you got moisture. The best breeding ground for mold is fungi spores. Can we get rid of them? Gotta wait till the end. But the other thing is too, that we don't want to grow those, because once you get them out, or you try to get them out, you may not. Can you completely? We'll find out. So the thing is, how do you store your tack? Do not leave your tack in your horse trailer over the winter. I get so many saddles to clean and condition just because of that reason. Somebody moves from, say, Arizona or California or New Mexico, and they want to come to the beautiful Pacific Northwest, but they don't know about the climate. They don't know how it affects their tack or anything. That is why they leave them in the tack room, and it's like, what happened? I'm going to show you a saddle here that I got right when I was first starting out, and you'll see here an image of it, completely flocked like a Christmas tree. They had no clue what was going on with their saddle. This can also be dangerous to your health. So anybody that you bring these saddles to, if somebody brings me that flocked like saddle, I will ask them, please make sure you brush it off before you bring it. This can be dangerous to our health when we're cleaning these saddles. These saddles sat into my my workshop. Now my workshop is attached to my home. Hopefully not for long, but the thing is, it is attached to my home, and these were so moldy that it permeated into my home, and we ended up starting to get some respiratory issues. Please make sure that if you've got yours that looks like a flocked Christmas tree, brush it off, get that out, get it into a place where you don't have to breathe it. We found out you can actually find out if you're allergic to mold. My daughter, when we first had her start cleaning saddles, we had one with mold, her eyes turned blood red, both of them. My ex-husband was so furious. He's like, what happened? We found out, wow, she's allergic to mold. This can be dangerous for your health, and how you store them, it's important for a couple of reasons. Okay, if you store them, you want to make sure that the mold doesn't grow, because it can also alter the color of your saddle. What do I mean by that? So mold is a living fungi, so it can, if you have a saddle that is light or lighter than this, maybe a normal saddle like this, it's going to leave little black dots all over. It's sort of like when you use non-distilled water to wash your saddles, and you have a saddle this color, it's going to leave mineral deposits on it. We're not talking about that today. That's another story. However, mold can do the same thing. So you got to be really mindful in how you store. You also have to look at, think about if you're living in a very hot environment, who your saddle makers are when you buy a saddle. This is about trees and another thing, but they don't wrap those trees in your saddle all the same. Some might be wrapped with fiberglass, some might be wrapped with rawhide, and the saddle maker may ask you where you are because the fungi will penetrate into it. Okay, so let's talk about some different molds and what happens to your equipment really briefly, because this is probably the more technical end that nobody wants to really talk about. Okay, so what happens is you can get different types of mold. There's white, green, black, and it can all be, now this one here, these two here had a little bit of white and green mold in them. Okay, so the thing is with the mold and your leather, you're going to say, well, yes, I've worked with leather and I've got the mold out. I've got it out. Well, you might be working with a belt. You might be working with thin leather. You might be working with something that is not a 12 to 14 ounce hide. Now, remember, this is skin. It's sort of like if you put things out and it grows mold anywhere. Same thing with this. This is skin. So what happens is the spores not only lay on the top of the leather, it penetrates into the leather. And can you remove that? Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. You're going to get contradictory. I work with saddles. Now you can come at me, you can put also comments in how you've done it and be successful. I would love it. I'm all for learning about different ways. However, I'm talking about saddles and what I do, and I've done it for 20 years. So the thing is, when somebody brings me this, I have to look at what type of mold is it? How am I going to handle it? How am I going to do that? And so I just heard somebody say, well, I just put it out in the sun and let the sun do it. The sun is the heat. It's the heat. It's not the sun so much. It's the heat. However, when you put sun on your leather, then what's going to happen is it's going to dry it out. It's going to make it hard and brittle, and then you're going to have to re-oil it or recondition or whatever. Going to have to do that anyway here, okay? So what happens to the mold is it sits on top and then it starts digging itself into the leather. So when you're working with a 12 ounce, 14 ounce leather, it's in there deep. And so you get it all nice and clean and you're like, whoop, it's gone. And then maybe a couple months later, you're like, oh, it's coming back. Yes, it will come back because you haven't killed all the spores. You've only killed the top layer of the spores. You haven't killed what's inside. Okay, so can it really come out? You can start it and you can keep working at it and hopefully gradually kill all the spores. But more than likely, you've got it now inside your tree. You've got it inside the padding of these seats. Okay, you've got it in the shearling. Now that's even a different story. Is the shearling real or is it fake? Unfortunately, beautiful saddles, right? You would think that that's real shearling. It's not. When I got underneath in it, I was like, dang, why pay so much for a beautiful Dale Chavez saddle and not have it fleeced real? The reason why they do that is to keep the cost down, okay? But we're talking about the mold. It gets in there. And now you've got to replace the seat. You've got to replace the shearling. So you're looking into a lot of money, only because, one, you didn't have the knowledge how to take care of a saddle in the Pacific Northwest or in colder, wetter climate, or two, well, you just don't take care of your equipment. Gotta take care of your equipment, people. So anyway, so yes, here's the thing. You can get mold out on some instances. Thinner leathers, it's much easier. If there isn't anything else, if it's, for example, a belt, okay, you're looking at a thinner belt, probably 9-10 ounces. Yeah, it's a little bit thick. You could probably work at it, okay? So what's going to happen with these two saddles, as I forewarned the gentleman about, is that I have cleaned and conditioned them to the max. I have sealed them. However, this mold is going to come back. He was really shocked and disappointed, and I told him he should tell the buyer that this is the condition, that they really need to keep it in a dry, warm environment. And the more that they do that, the more those spores can die. However, this is still, I'm telling you right now, these still have a moldy smell to them. Not as much because I sealed. And what did I seal it with? You can seal it with either like a finishing, a leather finisher, like Resolene. You could throw on even some sheen spray, that kind of a thing. You can also put a waterproofing on there to help keep some of the mold out. We sell this waterproofing. It's snowproof, weatherproofing. There's other ones out there. I have one in my workspace. It's a different one, but a waterproofing that you can put on there that is going to be clear, and it's also going to help seal it. It's not going to fix the problem, okay? So here's the other problem. There is mold inside these paddings. There's mold inside these paddings, and I'm not going to be able to get it out. I'd have to strip the whole saddle down and redo it. Same with the shearling underneath, okay? So problem is people not taking care of their equipment. How do we get rid of the mold if we want to attempt to get rid of it? Are you ready? Do you have a little mask? Do you have a ventilator? Do you have anything of that nature so that you don't breathe it in? Some people have used vinegar. Vinegar is a very popular type thing. You're going to have to drench your saddle in it. So what do? It's 1 part vinegar to 2 parts water, and you drench your saddle in it. And they're like, oh my God, I don't want a saddle that smells like frickin' vinegar. Nope, you don't. So what do you have to do? Then you got to turn around and give it a baking soda bath, okay? There's a baking soda bath. Now, does that kill all types of mold? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how many spores are in there and living and how deep they are. And how long has the mold been on there? Because if your saddle is like the one I showed you a picture of, Snow White, then you're going to have a lot of problems getting that out. However, there is a possibility of getting a lot of it out. Now, if it's got a padded seat, because most padded seats are suede, okay, or a type of rough out, okay, that is going to probably have to change the padding in there, because you can't really put water type products on it. It will ruin it. It'll make suede more brittle and make it more hard, because that's the underside of the hide that they use for the rough out, okay? But the other thing too, you could use boric acid. Same thing, you're drenching that saddle with boric acid, you're letting it sit, and then you're going to put, again, another baking soda bath on top of it. Why baking soda? Because it changes the pH and it pulls that smell out. Will it get rid of all the smell? Depends on how deep it goes in. Depends on how much you drench it with that. You can get majority of it out, but you're not gonna get it all out. Okay, so what is the key to taking care of your saddle is keep it in a warm, dry space. Now, when I say that, my shop is at least 55 to 60 degrees. Some people put it a little bit lower. I have so much leather in here, I cannot afford to lose one piece of leather. So I keep it at about 60 degrees in my shop. And plus, when I come in and I come to work, then I turn it up a little bit to my comfort to about 70. You don't need to do 70, okay? But if you have a tack room or whatever that you're putting it in, put them in your garage and put a little heater in the garage. Whatever it is that you have to do, bring them in the house in an extra bedroom or an office or whatever it is. But this includes your bridles, your halters, anything leather. Because again, you've got to remember it's skin, okay? It's skin. And even though it's dead, there's still possibilities of things to live within it. All right, so that is pretty much what it is. Can you get it all out? No, not in a saddle, depending on the type of saddle. You got a hard seat? Very possibly. But again, you're going to have to get in every nook and cranny, because even if you leave a couple live spores, they'll expand. My purpose of this video is to tell you how to notice what is mold, how to do it, because if you're coming from a warm climate, we get that with a lot of blanketing as well. Don't know how to blanket. I should do a video on that one, because I've been in the blanket industry for over 20 years. Company's been almost 25 years. But the thing is, people don't know. There's nothing wrong with not knowing, but educate yourself on it. The best thing to do is take care of your tack, and it will take care of you. And it will be less expensive for you because you won't have to pay somebody like me to take care of it or repair it. It's not good for it as well in the longevity of it either, because now you're putting another element to your leather that helps pretty much eat it, you know. So you want to keep your leather as good as you can. How can you do that? Condition your leather depends on how much you use it. If I say condition it every 6 months, if you're using it a lot. If you're using it, some people like to condition it once a month, but I think if you even condition it at least every 6 months, then you're going to be fine. What do I mean by condition? Make sure that you're using products that are supple, and keep maybe some lanolin in it, and then oil it. A lot of people will use neat's foot oil and grape oil, olive oil. Okay, olive oil is good. It will, if you have a lighter saddle, it will not darken your saddle as much as neat's foot oil. But keep your equipment oiled and conditioned. Again, what you can do is put a water repellent seal on it, and you can always look on our website for some. And then also too, there's all different kinds out there, but that's how you would do it. All right. I hope this was helpful. Please don't forget to go to theleatherladyllc.com, and we've got products and learning and DIY kits. DIYs are becoming one of our big thing for 2025. And don't forget to watch our other educational videos on this YouTube channel. Have a great day and be blessed.